Well, good morning, Sudbury. And it's happy Thursday. Great to be with you. I'm AJ Walsh. Just making sure that we're coming through on CKLU. For all you CKLU listeners, good morning. And it sounds like we are, so that's great. So welcome this morning, Billy. Glad to be with you here. It's going to be an exciting morning.
Awesome. Thanks for having me again.
So interesting with technology, as far as technology is concerned. Each day there's a new surprise, and it keeps us on our toes. And if you're not always, learning something new, then you're not learning anything. And if you're not stepping forward, you might be being swept away backwards by the current. So seems like, every day we have a new learning experience. And unfortunately, I didn't bring a piece of equipment with me back from my office. And so we didn't have an intro like we normally have and whatever. And so that it just creates a little bit of a stick in the spokes for the routine. But good morning, everyone. Thanks for being with us. It's still Sudbury News Talk on CKLU 96.7 FM and on CKLU.ca. If you go there, you can stream it. You can download the Radio Player Canada app. And also, you can catch us on Facebook Live at facebook.com/Sudbury News and YouTube Live at youtube.com/Sudbury News. So we're excited to be with you today. We've been doing this show since March and had a bit of a couple days off last week due to some internet problems at the office, as we're kind of doing in studio, in office remote, kind of hybrid. But we're managing to keep the show on the air, on CKLU, and online and streaming. And we're grateful for all of you and for your input in the show. It's not always the easiest to follow your comments. And so if you could have a little bit of patience with us as we try and get to your comments. Good morning, Julia. Exactly. It's great to see all of you online with us. And with that, I'm going to get this computer up to speed so I can see all of your comments. And because you are a part of the show, it's basically the idea of it was to have a community conversation where we can take local events and local issues, unpack them together. We're just facilitating a conversation here on our end, but you're also a huge part of, you are the show basically, and we're just facilitating it. So thanks for being with us here. Today, I'll hopefully be able to keep on top of all of the comments that we have, in the comment section. And if I'm not sharing them all, again, my apologies. I'm just trying to keep up as we're trying to facilitate the conversation. And so, I don't know, how have you found the show so far, Billy? How do you think it's going, and how do you think it's growing, and what's the good, bad, and the ugly as far as you're concerned?
You know what? I actually haven't really put much thought into it. I just kind of, we sort of just one foot in front of the other, and you just kind of go, and it's been a kind of interesting sort of personal development for myself, learning about not just news, but a lot of the other stuff that comes with taking on something that you're not really well designed to do.
Are you talking about possibly being out of your comfort zone?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. And how do you find that? Like, if you look at, because I remember talking to you about being on the show and having this show, and originally you're like, no, I'm not. I don't think I want to do that, but you did. You looked at it as, I think, a personal development. Is that right? Or like just to be able to?
Yeah. In hindsight, I appreciate you sort of kind of dragging me on here first. It was I crept my way very slowly onto the scene in this. Yeah. And I do enjoy it now, though.
Me too.
Sometimes you just gotta, hold your feet to the fire and get a little calloused, but eventually it starts to feel warm.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like anything in life, right? Like, if you don't really do something, how could you really, if you didn't give something a chance, you really don't know whether or not it was right for you, or you could do good at it or whatever, right? And so there's just something, it just seems like that's been, as soon as I discovered that, it seems like that's the way my life, whether I've done it intentionally or not, it just seems to, that's kind of like been the theme of my life. It's always doing something new. Again, today there's a new thing that happened. We had to roll with the punches, do something a little bit out of the ordinary, but we're still here and we're still doing it. And the average person may not even notice, right? But you're like, wow, this is like so different, like, for me, like someone watching you, Billy, would probably think you done this for years, and then you're just here, but really,
I don't know about that.
No, really, no, it's true. I remember Jesse was talking about the dynamic duo or whatever. I know that was a bit of a tongue in cheek, but again, right? It's like, yeah, it's just something like we I think are more judgmental on ourselves, correct, than other people are. I think by nature.
Yeah, I think so. It's probably be a while before I reflect on the whole thing, but I do appreciate we're kind of opposite ends of the spectrum, and I've kind of always been like that. I'm not really, I sort of stand at the back of the crowd and watch what happens, kind of thing. And I know you take the bull by the horns and run with it, and which is kind of I need a lot more balance in that direction, I think. So it's been a really good thing for me, and I really appreciate having someone like you kind of, doing this thing for me.
Well, thank you very much. And really that's what we're doing. We're doing this for the community. So I think in that and of itself, when you're doing service for someone else, you kind of forget yourself,
That is probably the golden ticket in life, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and this is something that Julia is saying. She appreciates the fact that we have comments, like we comment. Look, people are allowed to comment, not only on our Facebook page, but on the show. And we're open to that when so many platforms or so many organizations on Facebook have turned off their comments, right? And we talked about that at length before. Like actually people are shutting down the conversation these days.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's refreshing for us to be able to actually have open dialogue about things aren't too scary to talk about.
Yeah. Well, everyone feels, I think, we're at a kind of a critical stage in our, in our society, maybe civilization, that we can see this trend, where it's like it's sort of both ends are getting more extreme, and there's a side that wants like kind of less, a little more control in the dialogue, and it's I've always felt it's better to put everything on the table and be a little bit more of a market. Open market of ideas, is that the phrase?
Yeah, exactly. And basically have a platform to have your voice heard. Town hall, right? Like a safe space where everyone can share their views. And I think I think we're all enriched at the end of the day by that type of a thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we got a lot of really great things to talk about today. I think I woke up excited, and I'm not always waking up excited, even though we had a bit of a technical thing. That didn't stand in the way of still being excited for the actual content of what we're going to be talking about today in terms of news in the city of Sudbury and some really interesting political type conversations we're going to be having coming. One from the mayor and a decision that he's made in his platform that's really interesting to kind of unpack, and then also Robert Kerwin, a statement he made that I just think it's going to open up for a really great conversation. So we'll have that, news headlines, and a lot more right after the weather. All right, and as promised, the weather here. Now, unfortunately, because I did leave that piece of hardware at the other office, I'm not able to show the screen the weather, but I definitely can do the weather. And on radio, they're like, well, of course, we're just listening to you talk anyways. So it's 13 degrees currently. It's mainly sunny, 96% humidity, so it's a bit bit humid. I looked out the window this morning. There's a bit of a haze, like a little bit of a light fog going on, but the fog patches will be dissipating this morning and becoming, the wind will be coming from the south, 20 kilometers an hour late this afternoon, and high of 25, 27 with the humidex today. It'll be nice, sunny, warm, but not too warm, right? So, and tonight clear, low of 13, so that's comfortable. This is the best time of year as far as I'm concerned, and I just love the weather, especially when it's like temperate like that. You got cool nights, warm days, not overly humid. When the sun's out and the mosquitoes are gone, that to me is paradise. And I love this type of weather. And so there's more of it on Friday, sunny, and the wind will be its usual 20 to 40 kilometers an hour. And the high will be 27 with the humidex 30, so even warmer on Friday. We'll have a nice warm, sunny Friday. And then the long-term forecast, Friday, sunny, 27. Saturday, the exact same thing. We'll have 2 of the same days. And yesterday was a 60% chance of showers on Sunday, but now it's only 30. So you never know. We might get a nice weekend all the way through. So here's hoping for a nice, sunny, warm weekend. And as we enjoy this fall and these wonderful temperatures. And that's your weather today. We'll be back with headlines, Billy and I and you discussing them and unpacking issues in Sudbury. We'll be right back after this. Okay, and as promised, we're here. We're going to have some headlines, and there are some interesting ones going on this morning. So let's, without further ado, let's dive into some of those. So here you go. Oh yeah, so good morning, Leanna. Thanks for joining us. And and we will be talking about this. Leanna says we need a new mayor. So we will have a statement from the current mayor, and that might other people might share more of your point of view or not, depending, right, on what's going on there. But we'll be following a little bit of the Sudbury.com's Good Morning Nichols City. Here's a few stories they have every morning. If you're on Sudbury.com, it's a really good feature that they have. And so they just kind of unpack a few of the main stories, usually about 5. And that's a nice little breakfast of news in the morning kind of thing. Oh no, Shane says, wait, we have a mayor? LOL. Some of the comments are definitely very humorous. It's almost like a little bit of Saturday Night Live sometimes. So, okay, so let's find our page here so we can go through the headlines, and then we'll unpack the Sudbury News segment just to dive in a little bit more. Sure.
What do you figure? Top of the page, work our way down?
Yeah, that's usually the best way to go.
All right. That's easiest for me. City is tasked with cutting $17.7 million from 2023 budget. So I guess they might have to look at increasing taxes, which they don't want to do, I guess. And
well, it says too, right, in the little the subheading, in order to reach City Council's goal of achieving a 3.7% tax increase in 2023.
So that's including a tax increase.
Yep. The city administration will need to reduce net cost by approximately $17.7 million. Yeah, to me, I don't know. That sounds like a huge task to do.
What do you figure the budget is? The Sudbury budget. Does it say in there?
It might. But either way they have to cut 17.7 million of that budget, along with increasing the taxes in order to reach their I don't know. Why does it say in order to achieve the goal of achieving a 3.7 tax? Oh, I see. So
That's their target, I guess.
yeah. So when they're doing their budget, if they have to increase the taxes by almost 4%, in order to meet the budget requirements, they also have to cut back 17.7 million based on what, the cost of running the city is, or the forecasted budget for the city. Anyways, no easy task there. So Michael comments on that. He goes, start with the mayor's salary.
That's topical.
That is topical. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about this morning. So that's great. So along with that, this was an interesting statement that Robert Kerwin, I don't know, did you find it interesting? The next story?
I don't know if I heard that sentiment before.
Yeah.
And, and is there a case to be made that he says this is one of the best councils that he's kind of had, been part of in his career?
Yeah, we did talk about that he said, this has been the best kind of council that we've ever had.
I don't rule out that possibility.
Well, you know what? I guess it's, the truth is in whether or not, I guess just the facts will speak for themselves. I don't know. It's hard to, how do you quantify that? But I know a lot of people are not the happiest with the way things have gone. Maybe they have a long, the long game kind of plan, and we're not seeing it. But Kerwin says there's no need to vote for change this municipal election. That's the headline. There's no need to vote for change. So he says the incumbent city council members have made a strong collective commitment to move forward confidently with the work they have been undertaking for the past 8 years. And they're seeking a mandate to continue what they started, and most, if not all, of them should be reelected, says the man seeking reelection in Ward 5. Now, some of the comments on this were interesting. Sudbury.com, where the story comes from, when I shared it, you know how they have the emojis, you can just react?
Right.
It was all laughing. Like there was no other emoji other than the laughing emoji. There was like 30 of them. So that's the whole reaction of people from those comments or from that story. Anyways, and so Julie says this is a council that didn't call him out on his stuff. Of course, he likes them. Okay. And then also she says the status quo has got to go. But I thought, there's 3 comments. So here on Sudbury News' Facebook page. So LMAO, okay, since you said so, LOL. So meaning since you said we need to vote for you, we will. And then Andy says, drain the swamp starting with this. And Andy. And great guy. We should actually have him on the show. Mm-hmm. And Jesse says, this guy's a con man. So, and I'm just reading comments. I'm not sharing my point of view on it one way or the other. Billy is way more, hopeful or...
Well, there's just still a lot of don't know, and that's my fault. I'm really green in local politics. So it's, there's just a possibility that, if he came on the show and I said, well, tell us about your experience. And he goes, and if he listed off a bunch of amazing things that he did that that's really good. Oh my God.
That's
You've
true.
Been working hard. Holy jeez. Then
we didn't realize
I'd change my tune,
Exactly. So no, it's true. We'll have more about that and Brian Bigger coming up. What's this one here? I just thought this was interesting. Sudbury man faces pen for wild ride through the city.
13 collisions.
I know.
I think I remember that day. I think I saw some local social media
we covered
craziness.
That. Yeah, we covered that on the show. That 13 collisions before the police were able to catch up with him. Wow, that was a wild ride for sure. So he's facing the pen. So hopefully that was worth it. All of that excitement and whatever was worth it, because that's going to be a long, not so great place to be due to, the escapade, fortunately. And next story, this is kind of good for people wanting to travel, who live in Sudbury. We covered the Sioux, that they got this new kind of program or whatever, where you can get an accelerated passport, a 10-day passport pickup service in the Sioux. Well, now we will have the same one. And that was a question, I think Nick was on the show, or you, one of us said, well, are we getting that in Sudbury? Or are we going to, what about Sudbury? So here we go. Sudbury Service Canada Centre will be one of 8 centres across Canada offering these services. So
one of 8. Wow.
Yeah. Won't have to wait more than 10 days for a passport anymore.
That's a step in the right direction, but I think I remember Nick talking about that, and a really good point is like, why isn't there an office like in every city? Doesn't seem like it would be that much, unless I'm missing something, but
yeah, like even if you had one employee or something, right, or even an employee who does something else who could also work on passports. Yeah, it's true. Why doesn't?
Yeah, step in the right direction, though.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, it seems like a service that should be there for everybody, equally accessible. This might be good for you too, Billy. Jazz Sudbury's making its return after 2 years of a break. Thursday.
Yeah,
that's today.
I'm not a huge fan of jazz, but I like calling some of the music that I play jazz when I play a whole bunch of wrong notes in a row.
Yeah, jazz to me, it's like the sweetest candy or the sweetest cake with, tons of sugar, and it's really sweet, and you can only have so much of it with jazz. But I want to get to some of these other comments. I think it goes back to so Miles is saying the present mayor has an unknown past. Funny, no one in the media has ever talked about it. Oh, well, maybe we should. Look at that, eh?
I'm unaware.
Cue the X-Files intro music. And Julie says, not even one office per province. Really?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What?
Well, there's only 8 in Canada.
Oh, that's true.
10 provinces.
Well, I think because the provinces already have passport services, but this is like a mini service, if you will, for maybe secondary centers. So I'm sure, like, let's say Manitoba is going to have one in Winnipeg, obviously. And then maybe some of the smaller, like Brandon might not have one. And maybe now they do because they're a secondary city. Karen says, re-elections, time to take out a broom and do a complete sweep. Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, that was like Andy was saying, drain the swamp, starting with this. So, yeah, I think, so you have a lot of politicians locally talking about, like Robert Kerwin, like, keep us in, we've been doing a good job. But I don't think that's resonating with voters. I just don't think so from this show alone. Look, Billy, isn't this show a really good example of just like getting the pulse, like taking the pulse of the community in some ways? Like,
oh, for sure.
Like we're hearing from people.
It's hard to know what the actual metrics or like statistics would be.
Yeah.
It's not like we get a total cross section of the demographics out there, but
we didn't position ourselves of any political orientation at all starting the show. Mm-hmm. Like, we're not like, oh, we're this or we're that, and we aren't. We just basically, we want all voices to be heard and have a conversation. And so it's not like, you can say part of our, what we're doing, like, so we're not just getting a certain demographics comments here is what I'm saying. Like, anyone can come on and just share their points of view and share on the Facebook page. So it's not only on our own Facebook page that I'm reading comments, because I'm on Sudbury Star's Facebook page all the time, Sudbury.com's, CBC, CTV Northern Ontario. And the ones that allow the comments, when you read them, they're pretty darn, unified.
It is, but I think you get, that sort of phenomenon. There's people who are more passionate, and there's probably a large sort of silent majority, I think they call it. People who aren't, they're not going to go out of their way in their busy day to make a comment. And there's probably a large body of that.
Okay. So maybe more people that
fall on the spectrum,
So more social media introverted people.
Well,
right?
Either that, or they're just it's kind of like, you don't really, like Natalie was saying, until it personally affects you, then, okay, now I'm angry and I'm going to go, and express my opinion. If I'm not, then I'm probably just going to go make dinner and watch a movie.
And let whoever is going to run, they'll get elected and I'm not even going to participate, kind of thing. Yeah, exactly. So I've been talking about this one for quite a long time, in that Sudbury is kind of positioned to really benefit from all of the, the new energy, the way the world is going with, electric cars and getting rid of, the old fossil fuel type of thing. Love it, hate it, whatever it is, it's coming, because every government is pretty much digging in their heels and making this a priority. Now, again, whether it's great or whether it's not, or whether there's things we haven't looked at yet, it is great for Sudbury's economy, bottom line. So regionally, it's a good thing. And this is one story that came up. It was an opinion in the Sudbury Star. It said Sudbury could lead world's total electrification, which I do agree with. The city is in an excellent position to develop a green solution to the future that needs total electrification. So this sounds like a person who is for electrification regardless. But I think even if you're against it, you can't deny that Sudbury is going to benefit, and Northern Ontario and mining in general is going to benefit from these new policies. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, who doesn't want better batteries, right? Batteries are good. They store energy. But that's the thing too, is they are a store of energy. You still have to create the energy some way else.
Yep. And right now, I think there's a lot of arguments that a lot of the batteries are being charged from fossil fuel. So it's kind of like...
There's a bit of a shell game maybe going on out there, yeah.
And this was a good example in California. It's great to look at California because they're really progressive. So they're doing a lot of things. So, and Colorado too, did you hear where they told people or whatever, they all had the smart meters like we all have now, and they basically were programmed so people couldn't turn up the heat over a certain amount, or the cool, whatever. Their temperature was stuck. They could not change the temperature in their house.
Yeah, I thought I heard in some European country that happened as well too. I don't know.
So I guess if for some reason there's an energy whatever in the grid, or it can't handle enough energy, the government or the power company can just program, or just, because it's a smart meter or whatever, and you have a smart house, they can control your temperature in your house, and you're not able to adjust it due to the fact that there's a strain on the power grid for some reason. So California came out and said, everyone, they're going to have an electric car by whatever year. There's going to be no more combustible engines allowed in California. And then I think right after that, they had...
Also, don't charge your car right now.
That's right. They said, no, you're not allowed to charge your car right now because we have peak energy or whatever on the grid. So I was like, whoa, this is a little peek into your future. If you're looking at good and not so good, features of a policy like that, or going in that direction. So it's great and all, like you can have an electric car and you can charge it, but if you can't charge it, you don't have an electric car. You have a hunk of steel and rubber and glass sitting in your driveway, and that's all that it's going to be. So if you can't charge it, it's not good for anything. So again, right, it's really great. Like, these are great goals and everything, and Sudbury will benefit, at least in the short term, as we transition, because you got to get these materials out of the ground in order to build these batteries. So yeah, Sudbury is going to be, and it can be. Now, is the new city council, or is the city council going forward going to make it open for business, though? That's the discussion. Are we going to have a Tesla plant in Sudbury? And I think there were some rumblings about that. Tesla building a battery plant right here.
Mm-hmm. Well, I remember seeing the headline.
Yeah, we've had other interests before. I remember Toyota. Now, is this a Sudbury myth or something? But I believe we had big companies like Toyota coming in, wanting to build plants, and the city didn't work with them, and we don't have a Toyota plant here. So I don't know if we're going to be as open to new industry and, new development, and make it easier for them and not difficult to come here and do business. And if we're able to, it could mean booming jobs and whatever spin-off for the economy. And if we're not able to do that, then, we're going to miss the boat, because there are other communities. There are Timmins and further north and whatever. But ideally, I think Sudbury is a good fit because we have all of the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. It seemed to make sense, but I can appreciate where there might be this, tough situation where these people probably do have a lot of competing forces competing for them so they maybe get a very sweet deal, where they're like a lot of tax breaks, and could it be a potential burden on a community having something like that where they're, I don't know, it's hard to imagine in that case, but it's probably tricky working out a fair deal where it's going to have some benefit for the community. And again, I'm talking from a very uneducated perspective in that, so I need to, again, be great to have some people who've had some experience with that.
Yeah.
Voice their experiences.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of voicing their experiences, and speaking of how I said that pretty much a lot of people are unified in their, what they feel is going on in the city, I just kind of did a little rant about, how I felt, and my sentiments were. And then I looked down in the comments, and the headline is, the sub-headline is, "The city is in an excellent position to develop a green solution to the future, and it needs electrification." And this person said, "The key word is position. Really depends on who's governing the city to make the whole thing happen." Exactly. So that's just a good example of, I think we're all on the same page here. I think as a collective, I think this new government in this city should really open up their ears and their eyes to what the citizens are saying. And I think there's a lot of really great, rich understanding here of because we live in the city every day, of how the city should move forward. And I really hope they're more open than the previous 8 years to people's comments, because we know they just recently made a regulation or whatever amongst themselves, a policy that they're going to be responsible for anybody's comments on their own social media and stuff. And so the end result of that is they're just going to take down people's comments. And so they're going to make they're going to make themselves less reachable for your comments to hear what you're actually thinking or saying. So now they're going to be even more isolated and living more in a bubble, to lose touch with the everyday common activities and people in their own city they're representing. That's what I think is the end result with that. But Lee says, "We have a lot of jobs, but no one really seems to want to work." And that's a sentiment I think I'm hearing a lot too from people. I know I'm in that industry myself, and I do hear that from employers. And then I hear people who want to work saying, I hear that that's the case, but I've applied at 300 places or 30 places, and I have all the qualifications, and I'm not getting hired. So I'm hearing both sides, and it's a really weird kind of mystery what's going on with that whole employment industry. Again, I have no answers for it. But this is one that I think a lot of people would find interesting, is that the city reports it yields no cost-effective alternatives to road salt. So there's a report from the city that says we can't find an alternative to our road salt. You know, the road salt we're using right now is not the greatest when it runs off into Ramsey Lake and whatever.
I was in Japan a long time ago, and they did have a solution that I don't think would work here, but I thought it was pretty interesting. They had these signs at the side of the road, like big, you know, sort of like lamp poles kind of thing, that had a little arrow pointing down as to where the edge of the road is. So that way, if it got snow covered, you get this visual that you're not going to drive off the road. Again, you know, not too great for any kind of non-slip factor,
but at least that is
something.
True. How many of us have been driving on a highway, and it's like blizzard, and you can't. Everything's white, so you can't tell where the road is, where it ends, or you're following the next guy in front of you and you're hoping he can tell or she can tell where the road is.
That is a bit rare. It's only a couple times a year maybe that happens.
Yeah. I think more
it'd be quite the task doing, you know, all of Highway 69 or.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we have our roads. Northern Ontario is a lot bigger than Japan.
Apparently.
Yeah. I wonder, where you can fit Japan and Ontario. I think Northern Ontario, if you include all up to James Bay and whatever, we'd be bigger. We'll do that next show.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Next show, we'll take Japan and we'll transpose it over Ontario and we'll see how big it is. But yeah, no, we have a lot more roads. We have a lot more snow. And so here the city is saying that we can't find an alternative to the current salt we're using. And so we're going to continue to do that. And because it's so cold here, we need like the salt we're using currently, because it is like our temperatures are so cold. And I know they use other solutions in other places, but it isn't as cold there. So I know I can see why they're struggling to find an alternative. It's not hard to see. So it says here, Julie is saying, it doesn't help that Sudbury switched the paint they use for the lines to the green type. It washes off after one season. Oh, I didn't know that. So it's more of a greener, environmentally friendly paint, possibly, and it doesn't work as well. So yeah, there's all kinds of things here. So there's numerous alternatives to sodium chloride or road salt for road de-icing, but it's unclear what some of their long-term impacts will be, according to a city report, which also notes there are no cost-effective alternatives to salt. There you have it. So one of the comments here is the more cost-effective thing to do would be to plow, then add the salt or alternative, and not the other way around. I never understood why. I see plows with the blade up, adding salt on an unplowed street to plow the salt away later.
That is a very good point.
That's interesting, actually. I've seen the same thing. I'll never forget, I left the country, speaking of leaving the country, for 2 years in 97 to 99. I went to the United States, came back. And things had changed in that time. So I was driving in the winter and I'm like, man, where are the plows? like the snow was accumulating, and before they'd be out right away and doing it a couple times, making sure the roads were cleaned up. And But I realized, I guess they were trying to cut costs, and they said, well, get winter tires, it's on you to drive more safe. We're not going to make as safe a place as we used to, and the onus is more on you now. So they did less services, and I remember that basically it must have taken place between 97 and 99, because I came back and it was totally different. I totally noticed a difference. Anyway, so I guess that's a way to cut costs. So not a way to cut costs is Mayor Brian Bigger, here's the headline, declines to join his opponents in making a pay cut pledge. So how do you think this will resonate? Just that headline alone, Billy. When you hear the headline, what are some of the thoughts you have?
Oh, I can hear the thoughts out there when I see that headline. But my kind of unpopular opinion is that politicians need to be well compensated.
Okay.
And I'm not too sure what the optimum sort of rate of pay for a mayor would be, but when I look at that, it doesn't seem like that's like, wow, that's insane that he makes that much money. It's and I guess there's kind of two reasons. One, if you want to have someone, I guess that's people sort of vying for that position. I think if it's too inexpensive, you might see a trend to get lower experience, lower can't think of the other word for quality. It doesn't sound like the right word, but
so lower experience and lower quality than Brian Bigger is what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying
interesting.
Yeah. And again, I've never been mayor of a large city, so I don't I have to be careful about how much judgment I put on these things.
No, that's true.
Because like we've had this kind of experience, like even doing a show, if we were sort of like a democracy here, and people like, oh my God, they run that show. Like, it's like, there's always something wrong. It's like,
that's right. No, it's true.
It's like, you guys don't understand.
Why don't you have better production? Why aren't there more jokes? You should have a joke of the day, things like that. No, you're right. Like there's always comments people can have as to, how something can be better. And if you don't do it yourself, you don't really understand. But just so everybody knows, he does make more than the mayor of Toronto. So I agree with your point that we should be well paid, or there is an argument to be made that politicians should be well compensated in order to attract, people that are going to be able to spend all their time and energy doing it and serving the community and, serving whoever they're over. But he makes $250,000 a year. So in 4 years, he makes $1 million as a mayor of a city of 170,000 people. The mayor of Toronto is over 8 to 10 million people, and he makes less than that. And so I guess if you compare it to other mayors and other jurisdictions, it does seem a bit hefty of a salary, in my point of view. Anyway.
Yeah, I know people who have a lot less responsibility,
making more,
who get way more too. So.
That's true. CEOs of corporations and things. I understand.
Yeah. And I mean that's kind of the arena that they're in, like where they're in a, in that environment where probably everybody that's, a lot of people that they're around all the time are in this, tremendously higher bracket. So, and that's another, I think, threat too. The lower you go, the less, the more likely there is for an incentive to a corruptive force, maybe.
For sure. And just to let everyone know, comments, if it's more than like 2 sentences or whatever, it will not show up on the screen. It only allows for about 2 sentences. So if you're making a point and you do want it to kind of me to put it up onto the screen, if you could keep it to about 2 sentences. Like here, Miles says most of the time We compare city to city on politician compensation, as the article mentions. Yep, and that's what I was just mentioning myself. And then Shane saying, I'm just going to put up whatever fits here. Yeah, so very political, partisan kind of positioning here for sure. And but I can't fit the whole comment in, and I'm having a hard time reading. So I think the smaller the comments, the better. If I recall, he gave himself quite the raise last year too. Yeah, he was the one that implemented, that wasn't the salary when he came in. He did boost up his own salary. And so, yeah, and I would encourage all of y'all to just even pay attention to the comments. And if I'm not able to get them up on the screen or whatever, everybody's able to comment here. We're not going to stop anyone from commenting, other than if you're starting to be negative on somebody else in a way that's not respectful. I think if we're respectful in comments, I think just that alone should be enough to basically our policy of moderation, to be respectful of others who are reading, and respectful to others if you're commenting on someone else's comments. But yeah, so Brian Bigger says, while the vast majority, well, he doesn't say, but the story of Sudbury.com says, while the vast majority of his political opponents make pay cut pledges of varying amounts, Brian Bigger isn't joining them. City Council received backlash following the release of a Sudbury.com story last year in which it was clarified that the mayor's salary and benefits increased by 60% in 4 years. The Greater Sudbury's mayor's total salary and benefits increased from $143,000 and change in 2016 to $228,000 in 2020, putting his earnings in the same ballpark as Premier Doug Ford. Much of the increase, approximately $45,000, took place in 2019 in reaction to a tax change that found 1/3 of elected officials' pay previously considered tax exempt becoming taxed. Each city councilor's pay was also boosted by approximately $6,000 each that year, all to help make up the difference and shield their take-home pay from the impacts of the tax change. Interesting. So they had they made a tax change, and in order for them to be exempt from it, they gave themselves an increase. Okay, that makes sense. Now I don't know, what are the optics to people, when politicians give themselves pay raises, and you saw how Doug Ford made a, bill, whatever it's called, where, frontline workers or whatever, public servants can't have an increase of more than 1% for 4 years. Meanwhile, they give them, or it seems like they're giving themselves way more than that as a raise. I don't know, public relation wise, that's, to me, what do you expect people to think or feel, I don't know. I mean,
that's a good point. Yeah, the optics, that's not too favorable there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess Miles is also saying, I guess we're going to be voting based on past performance. And he's talked to friends over 6 or 7 years ago about the present mayor, and he left the city for Oakville to work. Oh, he left the city of Oakville to work here over some mysterious circumstances. Noonie, noo, noo, noonie, noo, noo. Let's see here. Where's this? Uh-oh. Can I find it? Is it there? Oh. Yeah, the mob is coming.
Uh-oh.
The mob is coming.
Yeah.
That wasn't the one I was looking for, but I can't even read. What's this one? Awkward? What does that even do? Oh. Yeah, just getting used to our sound effects here that we got. I'm not even sure what we have, but It's almost like this. So anyways, so I did not know that, Miles. So maybe we do need to look into a little bit of that. It'll be timely as well, right? Because in politics, transparency to the voter is one of the most important things. And so I don't think that is a problem, just knowing, the history of of who's running and why you would pick them is usually on who they are and what they've done and their integrity and things like that. So nothing wrong there. Oh, here you go. There, yeah, very good, Shane. So yeah. So I don't believe the government officials should get a penny more than the average salary of their city. Interesting. They're employees and nothing more. Interesting. That's a really neat way of looking at it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like at least there's a formula. Yeah. Like they're not just sitting in city council meeting going, hey, how much do you want this year, Bob? Or Sally, how about we just increase it this much? So it's basically a formula. They know what they're going to get based on the average. And now if they can do whatever they can to increase the economy and increase everyone's wages, they know that because of the formula, they're going to get more money. Wow. That's a really, really great idea.
Yeah, I think what comes to mind is I think sometimes CEOs have incentives like that. If you have a good, whatever your quarter is, you get certain. And I think one of the drawbacks to that is the long-term planning kind of goes out the window. It's kind of like, well, if I can sort of mortgage the future for a bigger profit right now, then I will get a bigger chunk, of my take home. So it's hard to find the perfect system for sure. So
like you said, there is no perfect system, I think is what you're alluding to. So even that has drawbacks. If you do something now that's short term and it's not going to benefit the long term.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let's sell all our assets while I'm in power and
get a huge bonus.
Yeah.
I remember that was huge in the news for a while. Remember the CEO's bonuses were all being, disclosed for the longest time. Like companies where they were laying off thousands of people, and then you hear that the CEO got like $100 million bonus or something crazy like that. And you're like, wait a minute, that more than pays for all those salaries. And then something, you can still get a $50 million bonus kind of thing. But,
yeah. Well, it was kind of exposed as sort of like a, what do you call it? Almost corporate warfare in the 90s where they would kind of like a large company would have like a junior company, capital company go in and, sort of take control under the guise of capital, saying, oh, well, let us take control of your company. We'll lend you, we have all this money we have access to. We'll take it to the next level.
Yeah.
But they'd purposely tank it so that their larger parent company could buy it up at pennies on the dollar kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they'd give the CEOs like these golden parachutes so they'd kind of go along with the plan,
Yeah. There's so much.
It was a subtle kind of corruption. It wasn't so blatant, but you could take a 20,000 foot view of it and go, oh yeah, that's what's going on there.
Yeah. Not cool either way. So you have, that's the corruption in the private sector, but the public sector, a lot of people will say that, and then they say, well, the public sector is the answer to that. And I don't think the public sector is any better. When you look at some politicians, and we don't even know some of the things that are going on behind the salary either, right? Like we don't know if you're in a position of power and you need a new deck built at your camp or your cottage, and we don't know some of those nuances that go on behind the scenes where you benefit, where it's not always in your bank account kind of thing. It's more of a networking leverage that you have from your position of power that comes too, right? And you're able to award a contract to a certain company rather than another company because that company was scratching your back a little bit. And so that goes on in the private sector a lot as well. And I don't even know how you can quantify things like that other than being like what kind of journalist do they call them? Ambush kind of,
Right. But I've seen evidence of the opposite of that too, where things are so there's so tightly guarded against that you get so many layers of bureaucracy that do kind of clog up your system of moving forward. So
Yeah.
it's there's definitely a balance there. I hate to say an acceptable level of corruption, but there are certain things that
That's
I think,
right.
Something big and something small, have to be, I think, put in place.
Yeah, like, can you have zero corruption? Would be a good question. Is that even possible? I don't think so. I think the human condition historically has shown that along with benevolence and doing good things and whatever, it's like that yin and yang symbol where there's an equal amount of whatever. And I think depending on the person and whatever, you can have more white than black or more black than white. Not saying that one is the positive and one is the negative. It's just you can have one above another. The more, there was an indigenous parable or teaching about inside we have two wolves or something, a good and a bad one, and the one that dominates is the one you feed the most. Have you ever heard that?
I have.
Yeah, I love that one because it's so true. But anyways, with that, really great discussions today. As you can tell, there's an election coming up. We're going to be interviewing some of the candidates. A lot of them have been getting back to us. So I think next week will be the one where we get really ramped up with starting to interview a lot more of the candidates. And so we'll look forward to that. Hopefully we'll get some of your comments in those, but I found with the previous interview we had, it was almost impossible to get people's comments in. So I'm going to invite those candidates to respond to you. If we can't do it on air, then whatever questions you have for them, I'm going to invite them and I encourage them to go and read those comments and respond to your comments because you are the voters, right? So anyways, thanks for joining us today. Grateful that we got through the show without the piece of hardware here that we normally have. Thank you, Billy.
Thank you, Aaron.
You are a huge part to the show and making it happen. Yeah. Not only getting it off the ground, making sure it's on, and then getting on air and being an integral part. So I really appreciate you. Appreciate CKLU allowing us to be on there, and Facebook and YouTube, and you for commenting and being part of the show. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks. Make sure to like and share the page. And as we grow our little community here, we can have a more robust conversation and hopefully impact the community in a positive way. So have a great one, everyone. We'll see you same time, same place tomorrow. Ciao. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU. Bye-bye.